in this boxing segment of the show, as we always do on a Thursday lunchtime, with Spencer Oliver, who's in Paris at the Olympics, of course, and alongside Spencer, I'm delighted to say, is former two-weight world champion Carl Frampton. We shall talk matters Derek Chisora and Jai Opetaia very shortly. Opetaia calling out Chris Billam-Smith earlier on in the week. But obviously, Spencer, Carl, we've got to talk about it. We've got to talk about the boxers at the centre of this gender row in their respective weight class finals, both of whom have got the chance to win Olympic gold. I'm talking about Lin Yu-Ting, of course, who has a chance of winning gold. And I'm talking about Imane Khelif, who won her semi-final against Janjaim Suwanpeng. And it sets up a fight for the Olympic gold medal in Friday's final. Spencer, you'll be aware, so will you, Carl, that there has been much uproar about these two fighters and everything else that goes with them. Last year, both fighters were banned from the World Championships by the Russian-led governing body, the IBA, after failing a gender test. According to the IBA, one was found to have a male XY chromosome in her system. But of course, no such tests have been carried out in Paris, and despite the uproar, they're free to fight. Spencer, do you want to go first in this, or Carl? What's your take on it all? Where does it end?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Lin Yu-Ting, that's sort of gone under the radar a little bit here. Not much been talked about, not been much mentioned about. But Imane Khelif, you know, when you talk about Imane Khelif and you talk about that, that's been like the centre of the boxing area. That's the centre of, that's the big talking point. And Khelif, by the way, has a huge fan base over here. You wouldn't believe
massive.
The reception
the
that she's
Algerians,
getting is insane. Let me just say, let me explain a little bit about this guy. So, yes, she was born biologically a female, and like you say, it's these XY chromosomes it is. She was in the World Championships last year. Her criteria didn't fit that, and she was kicked out of them. And from my point of view, rightly so, because her body is naturally producing hormones to the same sort of standard as a male. So they took her out of that competition. It's down to the Olympic Committee here, because they're the ones that allowed her to box. You've got to remember, she is a female. She wants to compete as a boxer. She was obviously gutted the way that it went with the World Championships. She has her own issues, her own problems that her body's naturally producing.
Yeah. We're struggling to hear you, Spencer, because of the wind noise, Spencer. While you're adjusting that, Simon, what's your take on it? It rumbles on and on. I know you get strong views on it.
I mean, as far as I understand things, the science is moderately settled on the idea that if you're born with an XY chromosome, then you are a biological male. So she wasn't born as a female. There might have been challenges around the identification of her genitalia, when no one's going to be asking her to pull her trousers down, are they? The point is that the IOC have a different testing regime, which is relatively preposterous, because it's basically what you choose to identify yourself as. And if you choose to identify yourself on a passport, on your passport, as a female, then that's what they will denote you as being. And I think it was clear to everybody. I do think that the Italian walked into that fight with a prerequisite of walking out of it. Yeah. Because part of boxing is you do get hit in the face. There is an element of power that certain fighters have that others don't. George Foreman fought Muhammad Ali. Everyone knew that George Foreman was a concussive puncher. The object of the aim was to not get hit. And I think the Italian walked out of that fight after 2 jabs to the face and decided that that wasn't any more for her. And I thought to myself, that looks like she's done that to make a point, and people can question whether I'm right or wrong or that. But I don't think there's much debate here. I don't think Khelif should be fighting in this class. I think you can look at the physicality of her in comparison with the people that she's competing against. And I know that people are built in different shapes and sizes, but you have a weight class in boxing for a reason. Yeah. And more often than not, you can see the likeness of the two fighters. But you don't think she should be in there? You don't think she should be fighting? I don't think any right-minded person that doesn't have an agenda and doesn't have an ideology that they want to subscribe to rather than the belief in biology would suggest that it's appropriate for all the benefits of an XY chromosome, bone density, testosterone, muscle development, and power and subsequent benefits as a result of it, should be fighting in a class. And when something eventually happens along the lines that a challenge comes into play, only then will people grow up and do it properly.
Okay, Carl, you're back with us. So too, Spencer. Carl, what's your take on it? Because fight on she does, and she's got a chance of winning a gold on Friday, Imane Khelif. So what's your take on it? Should she be fighting at all?
Well, I have a different view on it completely. I think that you got to look at the source of where this information came from. The corrupt organisation, proven corrupt organisation in the IBA. I think it's also very convenient that they haven't actually produced any evidence apart from what they've said because of confidentiality, doctor-patient stuff. So I just think we'll have to look at the source first, and are they credible?
But it's very simple, Carl, isn't it?
I don't think they are.
It's very simple, Carl. Do you think, as a former boxer, that you should just be able to identify by what says on your passport? Because that's the IOC testing regime. I don't. So if the IOC wanted to do a swab test without making a 4-act play out of it, it would be easily determined, because I think the IBA have already said, if you don't believe us, go do a test yourself.
Yeah, I think that's what has to happen. Something has to happen here, but I think at this minute, when there hasn't been any tests, I think it's been a bit of a hatchet job on the girl, and I genuinely feel very, very sorry for her. Look, men fighting against women should never happen. That should not be allowed. I'm not trying to defend that at all, but I just think there's been a bit of a hatchet job here. And the Italian fighter Carini, who pulled out. I think she spewed it. I think she maybe tried to make a bit of a point, but I think she spewed the fight. Khalifi has also lost to numerous women before. It's not as if she's just going and bulldozing all these other women. And if you look at Karini's performance against the Turkish boxer, I think in the World Championships, she spewed it and faked an ankle injury, I think, a number of years ago. So I think there's a lot more to it. I still don't think people have enough evidence to say she cannot box yet, but I think there needs to be a lot more clarification and a lot more digging into this to figure it out. And yeah, that's where I am at the minute. I don't think people know enough yet.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.